And it's good. And today we are going to deal with the needs of Children's Parliament. Why do we need Children's Parliament? And the benefits of the Children's Parliament. Though 20 minutes each time is given to both, I think I will be dealing more on the need for Children's Parliament. And automatically we can understand what is the benefit of Children's Parliament. And when we talk about the need of the Children's Parliament, we see it at the two levels, two different levels. One level is the development of the child. The second level is governance by the child. These are the two levels why we need Children's Parliament. So first we shall be dealing with the development of the child. When we talk about development of the child, most of us and all of us, invariably every one of us, think that education is the most important need for a child. I too agree to that. It is very important. But the system of education what we have today makes me think a lot about it. Do the children really develop holistically with the present system of education? I have a very big doubt. I have a very big doubt. Because now educated people are filled everywhere. Every part of the government, every part of the society, every part of the world. And some are very highly educated. But what happens? I used to say this in the seminars and people used to feel a bit disturbed with this statement. More a person studies, the more a person is educated, the more corrupt he becomes. And some may not agree to that. It is their freedom to hold their views and opinion. I'm not going to contest their opinions. But the truth is that. I remember a small write-up, a few lines, the main entrance gate of a university. And it attracted me a lot. It said, destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or missiles. It only requires a lower the quality of education and allow the students to cheat in examinations. How beautifully written here. And it continues. Patients die at the hands of such doctors. Buildings collapse at the hands of such engineers. Money is lost at the hand of such economists. Humanity dies at the hands of such religious leaders. Justice is lost at the hands of such judges. And governance is hijacked by such politicians. And at the end, the whole system collapses with the collapse of the education. How wonderfully put it is. Because everyone is educated and the parents and the teachers, the schools and the system, the whole system wants the children to be educated for what? To study what? Why to study? They don't ask that question. I think last time I shared my experience with my visit to one of the villages in Madhya Pradesh, a created village. All highly educated parents are there. Highly employed. They were once employed and now they have left everything and come back and settled in this village. None of them are uneducated, highly educated, but they don't send their children to school. When I asked them, why don't you are all well educated, you don't send your children to school? They said, study for what? I am not against education, but I am for the development of the child, a holistic development of the child. Definitely the present system, from present education system does not have any space for holistic development of the child. And it is very pathetic. And I would also say, there was a sage, a holy man. One boy went and asked him a question, very serious question. What is a subject in which I can make a great career? The wise man said, study humanity. There is a lot of opportunity in this area, and there is very little competition. How wonderfully said. So really, this is what is happening today all over the world through this education system. There is no space for a child to develop holistically. We teach them numbers, we teach them alphabets, we teach them maths, we teach everything. We teach them to explore the whole universe. But we don't teach them how to explore themselves, inner selves. We teach them to be successful always, but we don't teach them to face failures. Very tragic. Very, very tragic. We teach them maths. I used to usually share this. There was a man, yes, a street vendor, who had 200 rupees and went to the wholesale market and bought 20 mangoes and started selling it on the street. And he sold it for 300 rupees. And what is his profit? This is the type of maths we have. We teach the children through this maths to buy, to sell, and to make profit. Wonderful. Fantastic. But we never think, why don't we have such a system of maths where the children will learn more than this? We don't have maths like this. There was a street vendor having 200 rupees. He went to the wholesale market and bought 20 mangoes, and he sold it on the street for 300 rupees. Out of the 300 rupees, 30 rupees he contributed to the nearby ashram, an orphanage, and 10 rupees he spent for developing the environment in his local area. And then what is his profit? And through this, the child develops the skill for buying, the skill for selling, and the skill and care for the others and for the environment. Now, I am not against education. I am for a holistic development of a child. However big our institutions, however wonderful our institutions, however with all the facilities, now all these days, online facilities with that and this, so many things. But there are more which are required for our children to learn, to develop. We always think intelligence is enough. And we call it IQ, intelligence quotient. IQ alone does not decide the destiny of a child. And I keep on repeating this wherever I go. Whether if I conduct seminars for the teachers or the school management heads or the correspondents or even to the parents when I have the sessions, I tell them very clearly, intelligence alone is not going to decide the destiny of the child. If that is the case, today a cell phone with a net connection is more intelligent than anyone else. But as a human being, a child needs to develop other quotients. A child has to develop the quality of being a human being. As the University Gate has said earlier, we have doctors, we have engineers, we have judges, we have lawyers, we have politicians, we have economists, we have that and this. But we don't have human beings. Humaneness has to be part of the profession. And if there is only a profession for money and without humanness, that profession has no meaning and it's not going to be useful to anyone, even for self. They'll be making money, that's all. And I will be happy to quote some of the quotients which are required, where the child has to develop very badly. To be a holistically developed child. We have AQ, attitudinal quotient. What does the child has? What type of attitude the child has towards self, towards others, towards the community, towards the society, and towards the nature. Acceptance quotient. How much a child is ready to accept self and others. You know, so many children suffer this problem. They are not ready to accept themselves as they are. I am black. I am not fair like Nayanthara. All cannot be Nayanthara. And especially the female children, they suffer this problem, this complex. Accepting the physical look, the color of the skin doesn't matter. What comes out of you, what matters. And the child has to accept this acceptance quotient. Accountability quotient. To what extent the child holds itself accountable to everything what it does, omissions and commissions of the child. Adaptability quotient. To what extent the child is ready to adapt itself. I know children, I have come across children, especially in the very affluent families. The child cannot sleep without AC, air conditioner. The child cannot even bear a little heat. Not because the physic will get sickness, it's of the level here, the mental level. Adaptability to situations. Approachability quotient, another AQ. To what extent the child can be approached and how the child can approach others. Then we come to BQ, behavioral quotient. We all of us know. We are all worried, of course. We are all worried. We are all concerned about children's behavior. But what do we do? Is there any system in our education system to correct all this? Some little things here and there they may be teaching. I don't say that the education system is against all these questions. They are not against, they are for it, but they don't know how to do it because they don't have time also. Even if they know how to do it, they don't have time for all these things. Break free quotient. To what extent a child is ready to break free from the barriers which the society has created, or the child itself has been created. How the child has created itself because of the influence of the society around. CQ, communication quotient, compassion quotient, civic quotient, character quotient, calmness quotient, how calm a child learns to be. In times of all these turbulences, the child has to learn to be calm. Community quotient. To be part of the community, does the child has this quotient? Does it develop? Credibility quotient. Another important question. To what extent a child is credible? DQ, disciplinary quotient. Dependability. To what extent others can depend on the child? Dependability quotient. Determination quotient. Decision-making quotient. EQ, emotional quotient. Very important. We know how our children are emotionally healthy. If you want to check your child to how emotionally the child is healthy, when the child is watching a TV program, you just take the remote and change the program, and you will know how emotionally healthy your child is. Ecological quotient. To what extent the child learns to care for the ecology, environment. Empathetic quotient. Ethical quotient. And equality quotient. We can keep on talking so many quotients. I will just name it for namesake. I cannot go in detail all this. Then I'll come to that later. Then we have FQ, fraternity quotient, forgiveness quotient, fair deal quotient. GQ, gratitude quotient, generosity quotients, and governance quotient. Skill in governance. HQ, humane quotient, honesty quotient, humility quotient, and health quotient. How much our children are skilled to know about health of the self. Today, junk food everywhere, right and left advertising in the TVs, televisions, in the medias, and they become prey to all these advertisements and end up in an unhealthy situation. Very important. Health quotient is very, very important today for a child. The child has to develop the skill to be healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, in all the ways. Then we have IQ, not only intelligent quotient, but integrity quotient, intuitive quotient, and inclusiveness quotient. Then we have JQ, justice quotient, and joy quotient. How the child learns to be joyful. And nowadays, the pressure on the child is so much, the child doesn't know what happiness is. It never goes through that real inner joy of being a human being. No space for it. No chance for it. So much pressure at home, in the school, and with the peers, and that and this. So much pressure. KQ, kindness quotient. LQ, leadership quotient. Logics quotient. MQ, moral quotient and mindfulness. NQ, nature quotient, neutrality quotient. OQ, optimism quotient. PQ, patient quotients, peace and peace building quotients, perseverance quotient and positivity quotient. RQ, relationship building quotient, reliability quotient, responsibility quotient, reasoning quotient, and respect quotient, risk-taking quotient, and righteousness quotient. Then we have SQ, sharing quotient, social quotient, simplicity quotient, service quotient, sincerity quotient, and selflessness quotient. Then we have TQ, tolerance quotient, teamwork quotient, truth quotient, and temperance quotient. Temperament. UQ, unity quotient. VQ, value quotients, value. And WQ, wisdom quotient and willpower quotient. So IQ alone is not going to decide the destiny of a child. All these quotients, and most importantly, the wisdom quotient. And where does the child is going to learn all this? Where is a space where the child can develop in all these areas, in all these quotients? And in the schools, I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to point finger with anyone, no. But the system is built such a way that they don't get a chance to learn all these questions. Only studying, become competitive. We say competitive exams. So we make a child to be competitive, compete with each other, not collaborative. That's why there is a beautiful saying in African countries, a phrase called Ubuntu. I am because we are all. I am what I am because we are all. This is collaborative, not competitive. And now coming to the point, children parliaments gives a space for all these questions to be imparted to children, where children learn all this and become a holistically developed human being. And this is the first need, as I was talking about, development of the child. Very, very important. Very, very important. The child can be, academically so that much, go to any extent, go to the sky. But if the child does not develop all these ethics, compassion, and all other quotients which we've been talking about, then we will end up as we have already ended up. And we see the present situation. Not only in India, all over the world is the same is the case. We have educated people, but we don't have human beings. No ethics, no concern for others, no concern for even their own families, their own kith and kin. There is no care and concern for the nature. And in children parliament, all these quotients are taught and they are made to practice. They develop. And this is one of the most important need of children parliament. Then we come to the second level. The second level is governance by the child. Why do we need children to be part of the governance? Children have rights. Children have voice. Children have opinions. And we know democracy, which is considered to be the best form of governance. And we know what is going on. We have been seeing, experiencing in India, and we are experiencing in other countries. And very lately, we are experiencing that in the United States, how democracy has utterly failed. It has become a joke. And that's why the fourth president of United States, and he says, democracy is a conspiracy. Of course, he explains further, for which we won't have more time. And the second president, John Adams of United States, and he beautifully says about what governance is, and which has no any equation today with the democracy. Now, the children not only have to learn governance, but have to be part of the governance. And that's why we have created an alternative system of governance, which is called a neighborocracy. Neighborocracy is a system of governance alternative to the present failed democracy. In democracy, the last person on the street does not have, people do not have any assertive say in day-to-day governance. The only right what they have is to vote once in 5 years or 4 years. And even that vote is hijacked or stolen or bought for money. Otherwise, people do not have any rights at all in democracy whatsoever. Though it is claimed to be democracy is by the people, for the people, of the people, and all that. It sounds okay, but in reality it is not. So we have created an alternative system of governance, which is called a neighborocracy, which we explain as governance starting from the neighborhood, where even the last man, a man on the street, a homeless man, a beggar on the street, can be part of the day-to-day governance, can have an assertive say in day-to-day governance. And in neighborocracy, in every neighborhood, we have 3 units of governance based on the age. One is for the children. Children between the age of 6 to 15. We have it according to the UNCRC 18, but in some cases we make it at 15, especially in European countries, because children above that, they feel to be called, honored to be called as grown-up children. And even in India, in certain cases, grown-up children don't want to be part of the younger children. So we have children parliament for the children between the age of 6 to 15. Then we have the youth parliament for the youth between 16 to 25. Then we have people's parliament for all the people above the age of 26. So these 3 units in every neighborhood functions in neighborocracy. And each one has its own right, equal right. Nobody can override on anyone else. And all these 3 units function with the socio-critical principles of consent-based decision making and objection-less election process. And there are certain principles which we may deal later. And in this system of governance, which is called a neighborocracy, where 3 units of governance is functioning in every neighborhood. Even a child of 6 years old is part of the governance. And this is the only system of governance in the whole world history. The whole world history I've been studying, indigenous history and primitive history, their governance system, and the indigenous people's governance system. I've been studying indigenous people's governance system from African countries, from American countries, from Australian countries and Indian countries, Indian states. Nowhere I have found where even a child of 6 years old is part of the governance system. And this is one of the most beautiful part of neighborocracy, where even a child of 6 years old is an active part of day-to-day governance through children parliament. And this through children parliament, I want to repeat this, children not only are learning the techniques, the skills to govern, but they start governing now itself. They start governing the process of governance now itself when they are children, because they have their rights to raise their opinion. They have their own voice and their own opinion, which has to be given enough space. And in children's parliament, children learn the skill of governance. When we say skill of governance, there is a lot connected to that. Speaking, listening, teamwork, coordinating, decision making, planning, implementing, monitoring and evaluating. This all is part of this. And children do it. And this is the second important need for children's parliament. And we have seen in my past so many years of experience, I have traveled all over the country and in many countries, and especially in Indian context, the children have governed their neighborhood to such a wonderful level. I am really amazed. The more and more I see the power of their governance, the more and more I become committed to this cause. In one village, they have stopped the whole village using alcohol, children's parliament, through their governance. And in one village, in one of the North Indian village, which was very difficult with lots of efforts, they have stopped open defecation. 100% open defecation they have stopped. You know, in Northern Indian practices, how difficult for people to use the toilet. And in another village, they have stopped open sewerage on the street. Every house has built soak pit. That was about a few years back when I visited that village. I was going through that. Then the next time when I went to evaluate the children's parliament, that I just reminded them, see, your village is so dirty, so slushy, always dirty and slushy. I've been noticing it whenever I come here. You children's parliament can do something about it. And after 6 months when I went there, I found every house having soak pit, not even one drop of water coming out of the house up to the street. The children parliament, their governance system has changed. There are children parliaments, they have stopped, they have advocated for stopping use of, banning the use of plastic completely. I would very proudly say that Kanyakumari was the first district in India to ban use of plastics so many years back. And the children's parliament of Kanyakumari district was behind that. They took up the issue. send so many petitions to that particular district collector of that time, and the collector passed an order: no use of plastics in Kanyakumari district. Governance by the children. They are very honest, so their governance also will be very honest. So they not only learn to govern, they not only learn the process of governance, but they take charge of the governance through Children's Parliament. So these are the two important needs. And I can keep on telling you hundreds of success stories where beautiful things are happening, especially in environment. Almost 90% of the successful parliaments have taken pledge about environmental issue on climate action, and they follow it. And when children participate in the process of governance, they are very serious than the adults. Adults take it for granted, but children never take things for granted. They do it very honestly. And that's why we need children's parliaments everywhere, wherever children live. Sometimes some schools take it, they use it, they do it, but I don't know to what extent they are successful, because I have not seen them, I have not visited them. But I can see some of the parliaments which I have visited, those who are really in touch with me, the parliament started in the schools, how beautifully they function in their neighborhood. I have wonderful examples of that. So these are the needs for children's parliament. Now coming to the benefit, I think I need not say much about it, because already you have seen the need for it. Now you yourself can know what will be the result of it, what will be the benefit of it. If the children go through all this process of governance, learnings in the children's parliament, and forming them into children's parliament, and taking charge of the governance, what they will learn, what they will acquire for self, what change it can bring in themselves, a transformation, internal transformation for every child. And the transformation in the families. I have so many success stories where the children, where the parents have learned from the children parliament members, their own children. In many cases, even in time management, they do wonderful thing. The parents learn. To be systematic, the parents learn. And what type of transformation, a change it can bring in their villages, in their neighborhood, in their communities. Great. Very great. And the benefit what they can bring, the change what they can bring to the world on various issues, by learning all this compassion, kindness, sharing, forgiveness, that and this, to be accountable, to be dependable, to be responsible. A change, a transformation, not only within self, but bringing a total transformation. Wherever they go, like a light, wherever they go, they shine, so that the others can see the light in them. And that is what the benefit of children's parliament. And every child becomes a real torchbearer, not only torchbearer, the light itself, where the others can Others' eyes are open. In many places we have seen. And for the total transformation of the world in general, and in particular, the change in the local community, and a systematic approach in the family, and most importantly, the personal transformation of the child. These are the benefits. And today, everyone is so fed up with whole thing, whatever they happen. Oh, this man is not good, that system is not good, this is not good, that is not good, this doctor is not good, that engineer is not good, that politician is not good. They were all students once. They were all children once. And now the children, those who are part of the children's parliament, and grow with all these skills and transform the self, a lot of change will come to the world, and which is required. Like peace and joy will be the order of the day if the whole children, all the children all over the world are made into children parliament. How wonderful the world will be. So these are the things I wanted to share today. And there are more, of course, because of the time limit. Now, the time is for you to ask questions. The more you ask, the more you will receive. So please ask questions.